Picture yourself on a giant ship in the middle of the ocean. The water stretches out forever. You feel safe in the fancy hallways and shining lights, but there are dark secrets on this floating city. People whisper about ghostly shapes, eerie voices, and mysteries that never get solved. Stay with us and discover what really happens when the sea keeps its secrets. The Royal Caribbean cruise glided across the open sea, its massive hull cutting through gentle waves. Passengers explored the lavish dining rooms, the bright pools, and the quiet corners of the ship. Families laughed at magic shows, while couples sipped drinks by moonlight. Everyone shared the same goal: to escape the stress of daily life and find adventure in the blue horizon. A young couple named Aiden and Lily had saved for this vacation for months. They were eager to enjoy a break from their busy jobs. Stepping on board, they marveled at the ship's size. It felt like an entire city floating in the middle of nowhere. Warm smiles from the staff and the hum of engines gave a sense of comfort. Yet, there was something else in the air, an electric buzz that made Aiden's skin tingle. That night, Aiden and Lily wandered the deck. The moonlight danced on the water, and a soft breeze brushed their faces. The gentle rocking of the ship felt like a lullaby. They paused to look over the railing, admiring how the ocean stretched in every direction. It was peaceful, but also eerie. Out there in the dark, it seemed like anything could happen. Still, they turned in for the night with happy hearts. Their cabin was cozy, with soft beds and warm lights. Lily drifted off quickly, but Aiden found it hard to sleep. He kept hearing a faint noise, almost like whispering. He told himself it was just the hum of the ship's air vents. Finally, exhaustion took over and he fell asleep. A few hours later, Lily woke up with a gasp. Her heart pounded as she turned to Aiden, shaking him gently. She swore she saw a figure standing by the cabin door. Aiden blinked in the dim light, trying to focus. He saw nothing and told Lily that maybe she had a bad dream. Lily nodded, though she felt uneasy. They decided to keep a small light on for the rest of the night. Neither spoke much about it in the morning, hoping it was just a trick of the shadows. The next day was filled with the usual fun of a cruise. They visited the buffet and enjoyed pancakes and fresh fruit. They even took a dance class offered on the main deck. The bright activities helped Lily forget the strange sight from the night before. But at dinner, she noticed that the lights above them flickered. She glanced around, seeing if anyone else noticed. A few passengers looked up, but brushed it off. After dinner, they strolled through the ship's shops and hallways. Every so often, Lily felt a sudden chill. She wondered if the air conditioning was just extra cold, but each time it came with a sense of someone watching her. She would look over her shoulder and see no one. Later that evening, they returned to their cabin, exhausted from the day's events. The room was dim, illuminated only by a small lamp. Aiden switched on the overhead light, and that was when they heard it, a gentle tapping on the wall, as if someone was knocking from the other side. Aiden placed his ear against the wall, trying to see if it was a neighbor. But the sound moved, first near the bed, then near the door. Lily felt her heartbeat quicken. They decided to ignore it and wind down for the night, but their nerves were rattled. Eventually, Lily fell asleep. Aiden lay wide awake, eyes darting around the room. Suddenly, something in the corner caught his attention. It was a pale glow. At first, Aiden thought it was the reflection of a hallway light, but as his eyes adjusted, the glow began to take shape. It looked like a figure dressed in white. The figure's face was faint and hard to see. Aiden tried to call Lily's name, but his voice felt stuck in his throat. He watched as the shape floated toward the cabin door, silent and slow. In a flash, it vanished. Aiden scrambled to turn on the lamp beside the bed, waking Lily in the process. She could see the fear on his face and asked what was wrong. When he told her, Lily's eyes widened. She explained that she had seen the exact same thing the night before. They stayed up until dawn, the cabin lights on. Neither wanted to risk sleeping in the dark. When morning arrived, they hurried to talk to a crew member. They described the ghostly figure in detail. The crew member listened politely, though a nervous smile told them they were not the first to report something strange. The couple felt both relieved and disturbed. Were there other stories like this on the ship? Throughout the next day, strange things continued to happen. They walked past a hallway mirror, and thought they saw a shadow behind them. Flickering lights followed them wherever they went, and soft whispers seemed to float around them. When Lily tried to record a short video in their cabin, hoping to capture any evidence, the phone's battery drained in seconds. After recharging the phone, she found no video saved. It was as though the ship itself was blocking their attempts to prove what they experienced. That evening, they ran into another passenger, an older woman named Valerie. She shared her own eerie tale. She had heard strange footsteps outside her cabin door each night, but when she peered through the peephole, the hallway was empty. Valerie had even asked the crew, but they told her it must be the sound of the ship settling. She didn't believe them. Something felt off. By day 4, Aiden and Lily grew more anxious. They heard rumors from other passengers. Some had seen doors opening on their own in quiet corridors. Others complained about disembodied voices calling names when no one else was around. The couple felt trapped. The cruise still had several days left, and the open sea offered no place to run. Feeling desperate, they reached out to a friendly bartender. He mentioned that cruise ships, like any place with a long history, might hold on to energy from the past. Thousands of people had walked the decks before them, each carrying their own fears and secrets. Some believed that strong emotions left a mark, creating echoes that appeared as ghosts. The bartender shrugged, saying it was only a theory, but he admitted he had heard more than a few odd tales from coworkers. That night, the activity seemed to reach a peak. Around midnight, Aiden and Lily's cabin lights flickered again, then went out completely. The darkness was overwhelming. The room temperature dropped and they heard the soft moan of what sounded like a child. Lily fumbled for her flashlight. As soon as the beam cut through the darkness, they saw the pale figure again. This time, it stood in the center of the room, seeming more solid than before. It raised a hand toward them, and a sudden gust of cold air washed over their skin. Aiden felt frozen. He wanted to move, to speak, to protect Lily, but every muscle felt heavy. The figure looked sad, almost pleading, as if reaching out for help. Then, in a blink, it vanished again. The lights hummed back to life, leaving the couple shaking in their bed. They realized this haunting presence was not looking to harm them. It seemed to be trapped, wandering the ship's corridors in endless loops. When the cruise finally docked, Aiden and Lily hurried off the ship, grateful to feel solid ground under their feet. Even though they escaped, their memories of that ghostly visitor would never fade. They told their story to friends, many of whom reacted with disbelief or nervous laughter. But deep down, the couple knew what they had seen. They had stood face to face with something beyond explanation, brought to life by the ship's closed walls and the vast, empty sea. From that day forward, Aiden and Lily's view of a luxury cruise changed. No matter how glamorous the setting, the unknown could still seep through. On a massive floating city, it was easy to get lost in the crowds, but it was just as easy to encounter the unseen. The experience reminded them that the ocean holds many secrets, and some of them walk its decks at night. Long after the vacation ended, the couple sometimes dreamt about that figure in white. And each time, they woke up wondering if those lonely souls still roamed the ship, seeking a final piece of rest or comfort, miles away from any shore. In 2019, the Royal Caribbean's Harmony of the Seas left port with thousands of excited guests on board. Families, couples, and groups of friends filled the decks. They lined up at the restaurants, watched live shows, and posed for photos against the backdrop of an endless ocean. Everyone expected a journey filled with joy. But for some, the sea was about to reveal a darker side. The daily activities sparkled with life. Children splashed in pools under the warm sun. Teenagers tried surfing in a controlled wave pool on the top deck. At night, the corridors bustled with passengers returning from comedy performances and late-night snacks. Yet in this massive ship, a sense of being watched lingered in certain hallways. Flickering lights and sudden drafts made some passengers uneasy. Most ignored these small oddities, chalking them up to the normal hum of a big ship. A woman named Sophia had come alone, hoping to find peace after a stressful year. She spent her days reading by the pool and her nights gazing at the moonlit sea. She noticed little things that others missed, like unusual sounds near the cabins. She heard a low hum at night that made her wonder if the ship carried hidden secrets. She also caught whispers in the stairwells, even when she was alone. One evening, she passed a group of anxious crew members whispering to each other. They seemed troubled. She picked up fragments of their conversation. "He hasn't been seen since dinner," one said. Another added, "We've checked his cabin. It's empty." They looked at Sophia with caution, then hurried away. Curious and concerned, Sophia tried to find out more. She asked a bartender if a passenger was missing. He looked uncomfortable and said he didn't know anything. But rumors spread fast on a ship. Soon, many guests heard the same story. A man had vanished without a trace. He wasn't in his room, and no one had seen him leave. Security checked the entire vessel. They asked guests if they remembered seeing the man. Cameras showed him walking down a hallway late at night, heading toward an open deck. The footage ended there. He never reappeared in any other camera angle. It was as if the darkness of the sea swallowed him whole. As hours turned into days, the tension grew. People whispered about what could have happened. Some believed the man might have fallen overboard. Others insisted they heard strange voices that night. A few even claimed to see a figure standing at the edge of the deck. But no one knew the truth. The only certain thing was that the missing passenger was never found. Sophia became consumed with the mystery. She studied the spots where the man was last seen. She noticed a flickering light nearby and a chill in the air. At one point, her phone acted oddly, turning off by itself when she tried to record video of the hallway. It reminded her of ghost stories she had read. But this was real life, and the sense of dread was even stronger because the ocean lay just outside. One night, while roaming the ship alone, Sophia heard her name whispered in the wind. She spun around, but the hallway was empty. She followed the sound down one flight of stairs and felt a sudden drop in temperature. The lights flickered, and she swore she saw a shadow move across the wall. She couldn't shake the feeling that something watched her from just beyond her sight. The next day, passengers gathered to discuss the missing man. The rumor mill turned wild. Some people claimed he had been pulled into a secret area of the ship. Others blamed supernatural forces. The cruise director tried to calm everyone, suggesting it was a tragic accident. Yet, no official announcement was made about how the man had disappeared. This lack of explanation caused fear and suspicion to grow. Sophia grew determined. She managed to speak with a security guard who felt uneasy about the event. He admitted that sometimes people do vanish at sea, but there was something unsettling about this case. The cameras usually covered every corner, yet for a brief moment, they malfunctioned around the time the man vanished. It was as if someone, or something, had interfered. As the cruise carried on, people tried to keep up normal routines. They sunbathed, enjoyed buffets, and danced at night. But a tense atmosphere lingered. Disembodied voices echoed in the quiet hallways. Doors opened on their own in the middle of the night. Passengers found themselves waking at odd hours, sensing a presence by their beds. They couldn't be sure if it was the missing man's spirit or their own growing paranoia. One evening, Sophia decided to walk the deck where the passenger disappeared. The moon hung low over the ocean. Waves shimmered under its glow. As she stood at the railing, she felt a wave of sadness, almost like a presence was trying to reach out. She whispered softly, "Are you here?" The only response was the soft push of the wind. But in her heart, she sensed something listening. Suddenly, a voice behind her said, "He's gone, you know." Sophia jumped. It was an older passenger named Gerald, someone who had been on many cruises before. He spoke in a low, serious tone, explaining how ships like these were floating cities with hidden corners and locked rooms. He said that tragedies at sea often leave echoes, energies that don't fade. Gerald then placed a hand on the railing and gazed at the horizon. "Sometimes, the people who vanish never really leave," he said quietly. "They stay here, in the hallways, in the nightmares of those who remain." Later that night, the ship's captain made an official announcement. He said they had searched everywhere possible. The missing passenger was not on board. Authorities on land would continue the investigation. The captain thanked everyone for their patience. But there was no comfort in his words. The thought of a life simply disappearing without explanation weighed heavily on the entire ship. During the final evening of the cruise, Sophia experienced one last strange moment. She returned to her cabin after dinner and found a folded note on her bed. The handwriting was shaky, barely legible. It read, "Look below." She lifted the note, finding nothing else under it. Confused, she checked the entire room. Then, out of the corner of her eye, she saw a faint figure in the mirror. It looked like a man's outline, silent and still. She spun around, but there was no one there. When the ship finally docked, passengers left with their luggage and many unanswered questions. The disappearance of that single passenger left a mark on everyone's minds. Sophia stepped off the ramp, looking back at the towering vessel. She felt relief to be on solid ground, but also a lingering curiosity. Part of her wished she could stay behind, just to solve the mystery. Yet, she knew some secrets remain hidden in the dark waters. Over time, news stories covered the missing passenger, but no solid clues were found. Family members pleaded for answers. Investigators searched for any sign of foul play. But the only thing that remained were rumors of flickering lights and ghostly whispers that continued long after the cruise ended. Some people claimed the man's spirit roamed the decks, reliving his final moments. Others shrugged it off, calling it a tragic accident. But for those who were there, the haunting memory never went away. The missing passenger's story became a warning tale. Even a place that feels like a beautiful escape can hide dark truths. The sea can be as calm as a peaceful lake, but its depths are endless and unforgiving. In the floating world of a cruise ship, one might forget there is a vast, cold ocean just beyond the rails. But sometimes it reminds everyone that its secrets are not easily uncovered. And for Sophia, every time she heard the distant sound of a ship's horn, she remembered the whispers in the hallway and the chills she felt that night. She wondered if the missing man was still out there, somewhere between the stars and the water, a silent watcher in the endless darkness. Long before modern cruise ships offered rock-climbing walls and chocolate fountains, another vessel ruled the seas, the RMS Titanic. This grand ship, full of promise, met a tragic end when it struck an iceberg in 1912. Thousands of souls were lost. Ever since, the Titanic's story has cast a long shadow over every ship that crosses the ocean. Even now, many people claim that the spirit of its tragedy still lingers in the maritime world. Another famous ocean liner, the Queen Mary, now rests in Long Beach, California. No longer crossing the Atlantic, it serves as a floating hotel and museum. Yet, guests report hearing ghostly laughter in the empty swimming pool, footsteps in the halls, and even sightings of figures dressed in old-fashioned clothing. Tour guides share countless stories of unexplained knocks on cabin doors and sudden cold spots that appear without warning. Some say these are the echoes of past passengers who can't move on from their final voyage. These historic ships have one thing in common: tragedy. The Titanic's catastrophic sinking created a heavy aura of sadness and fear that has drifted through time. The Queen Mary, which served as a troop ship during World War II, also holds memories of loss and despair. Many believe that strong emotions leave a mark, a kind of energy that remains. Over decades, this energy can emerge as ghostly apparitions, echoes of voices, or mysterious bumps in the night. Newer ships might not carry the same old tales, but they still feel the weight of maritime history. Passengers sometimes notice small memorials or quiet corners that honor those lost at sea. Plaques on cruise ships remind people that the ocean, for all its beauty, can be cruel. Crew members pass down legends of odd sightings and eerie coincidences. Some stories are whispered during late-night shifts, scaring new hires. They speak of ghostly figures roaming decks, lights turning on by themselves, and the feeling of being watched, even when alone. Dr. Marcus Hill, a paranormal researcher, once boarded an older ocean liner to investigate these claims. Armed with electromagnetic field detectors, audio recorders, and thermal cameras, he roamed the silent hallways at night. He recorded strange voices that sounded like distant cries for help. His instruments picked up spikes in electromagnetic activity in places where no machinery was running. Dr. Hill believed the ocean itself might magnify these energies, causing them to linger. He admitted that not every bump in the night was proof of ghosts, but he couldn't ignore the stories and evidence he gathered. Another theory for these hauntings involves the very design of ships. Large metal vessels can generate and store electromagnetic fields, which might interfere with human senses. This interference can cause people to feel chills or to hear things that aren't there. Then there's the psychological factor. Being far from land can heighten emotions. When people are isolated in the middle of the ocean, every creak or whisper can seem like something supernatural. Still, for every scientific explanation, there are countless personal accounts that defy logic. Passengers who claim to see full-body apparitions in old-fashioned clothes. Staff members who feel a gentle tug on their uniforms when no one is around. Visitors who wake in the middle of the night to the sound of a child giggling, only to find their cabin door locked from the inside. Each story might be brushed off by skeptics, but for the people who experience them, the terror is very real. One couple, Ingrid and Joseph, visited the Queen Mary on a weekend getaway. They laughed at the ghost stories told by tour guides, thinking it was a tourist trick. That night, however, they heard footsteps pacing outside their cabin. When Joseph opened the door, the hallway was empty. Ingrid later swore she felt a hand on her shoulder in the ship's old pool area, even though no one stood near her. By the end of their stay, their skepticism had vanished. They left with a deeper respect for the power of unseen forces. The Titanic, of course, is not open for visitors, as it rests on the ocean floor. Yet people still claim to sense its presence on modern ships. Some passengers dream of icebergs and hear phantom warning bells in the night. Others see ghostly figures in clothing from the early 1900s. These stories might be fueled by a shared memory of the Titanic's disaster. Still, those who experience them claim they are more than just nightmares. They feel like real encounters with echoes of the past. Cruising is meant to be a time of luxury and relaxation. People come for endless buffets, onboard entertainment, and the excitement of visiting new ports. But each ship, old or new, carries the stories of those who sailed before. The ocean does not forget. Sometimes these stories rise to the surface, creating moments that remind passengers of the thin line between the living and the dead. Some travelers seek out these spooky tales, booking special ghost tours on vessels like the Queen Mary or other historic liners. They bring cameras, hoping to capture orbs of light or unexplained shapes. They record audio, listening for ghostly voices. In many cases, they leave with strange images or chilling recordings. Whether these are tricks of the light or true paranormal events, the result is the same: an unshakable feeling that the past still breathes within the ship's walls. Many experts encourage people to keep an open mind. They point out that the sea has always been a place of myth and legend. Mermaids, sea monsters, and phantom ships appear in stories that stretch back centuries. Our ancestors believed the ocean was a gateway to other realms. In some ways, modern cruise lines continue that tradition. They offer an escape from normal life, a voyage into the unknown. Those who experience hauntings on ships often walk away with a deep respect for history. It's one thing to read about the Titanic in a book. It's another to sense its tragedy late at night, under starlit skies, with the silent ocean as your companion. It's a reminder that even the grandest vessels cannot escape the mysteries of the deep. By the time a cruise ends, passengers carry home more than souvenirs. They keep stories of fleeting shadows, unexplained footsteps, or a sudden chill when they expected only warmth. These experiences might make them question the boundary between reality and the unseen. In the end, the haunted past of maritime travel is not just about ghosts. It is about the shared human longing to understand what happens after tragedy. It's about remembering those who traveled before us, especially those who never made it home. Today, ships are safer, larger, and more luxurious. They sparkle with glass elevators and high-tech theaters. But the memories of lost souls remain, reminding everyone that the ocean cannot be fully tamed. Each wave against the hull might carry echoes of old disasters or the voices of those who vanished without a trace. And so, cruising becomes more than just a vacation. It's a journey into a realm where the past, present, and sometimes the unexplained exist side by side. Even when we set sail on a grand cruise ship, the unknown can follow us. Stories of ghostly figures, missing travelers, and haunted hallways remind us that the ocean is a place of mystery. Every ship holds memories of laughter and joy, but also echoes of sorrow and fear. As you leave these tales behind, remember that the sea does not give up its secrets easily. If you've ever had a strange experience at sea, share it in the comments. You never know what other hidden stories might be waiting just beyond the next wave. Bon voyage and sweet dreams.